All right. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We are live. This is Blacklisted Radio. We're already well into the month of March. We are in the 15th day, halfway through, and lots to talk about. I am your host, Doug Owen. Thank you for being part of the show. If you're listening to us live, you can text the show, 512-222-3067. And as always, you can reach me, Doug, at Blacklisted News, or follow us on Twitter at BLN Radio. A lot to get into. Pretty wild week. This week, we were actually able to find out what is in the net neutrality. Millions of Americans are clamoring for less control over the internet by the telecommunications companies. And, many people believe the government can do a better job than we can as far as mitigating and getting us the truth that we want from the internet. And so we'll talk about that and some of the things that are happening in Ukraine. A lot of stuff that's going on. And anyway, we'll get to all of that kind of haphazard show. Last week, if you were listening, we were having some technical difficulties. So this week, we should be loud and clear. The signal looks good to go. So pretty excited about that. So some of the things that I want to talk about tonight that I think are very, very important are what's happening in China. And I think it's a metaphor for what's happening today, and that is the loss of the central message. And that is what not only the U.S. government, but the Chinese government and governments around the world are having to cope with, and that is that more and more of you out there are questioning the message, questioning the validity of the state, and questioning exactly what it is that the state is doing to help us, if you will. And I think that is really a central question that most people really have a hard time to dealing with. And so one of the stories we're going to talk about is philosophy and bringing that into elementary schools. Actually, a recent academic brought the question of whether or not we should teach philosophy to children, and at what point. And it's a great issue at hand because we have Common Core, we have really the federal takeover of the education of children, and that's been happening, since really the early 1900s. Where we saw Nelson Rockefeller put lots of money into, and many of you have quoted him as saying, I don't want a nation of thinkers, I want a nation of workers. And, not to give him any credence, but at a time where we needed a strong economy based on agrarian agriculture, all of that, you can make the case that, that wasn't really a bad idea. Teach people how to be workers in a society that needed to produce. And because of that, you could argue that it made the United States one of the strongest engines for empire in the world. And we're seeing some of the fruits of that today. Not a big fan of Nelson Rockefeller myself, but through the high school education system, go through the history. There's a lot of great books on the U.S. education system, how it came to be, and what it was designed to do. But we're seeing how that is failing children, or young adults rather, today in a variety of ways. We are gearing kids to indebt themselves for an education that may or may not, in most cases may not, really provide for their livelihoods, aren't training them adequately to fill the jobs, the positions that we need today. So there's been this huge shift. So when it comes to philosophy, trivium, using logic, using your ability to see through and really to ultimately question what it is that we're hearing from our own teachers is something that we don't really get to until we enter a high school or college level age. And by the time you're, 15, 16, 17 years old, most of the things that you've been taught are, kind of ingrained. So I saw this piece and I wanted to mention it. It came out of The Guardian. An academic writes, if we leave questioning the models children have been taught until later life, it could be too late, warns Professor Angie Hobbs. Quote, that is why we need to start teaching philosophy in primary school. By this, the professor means that children should be taught from a young age that there are always other ways of seeing the world, and to that effect, they are exposed to by their families, their own social circles. And as a father, one of the things that I believe is really my job is to not ingrain my own beliefs in my child, but to have them be able to, question and decide what is truth, what is fact, what is fiction, what is rhetoric, what is propaganda from a very young age. And teaching philosophy is something that I think is so crucial, alongside Naomi Ackerman, who's writing for The Guardian here, to have a vibrant and well-educated populace. Having children question. Now, I know this sounds crazy, but actually questioning the very teachers, the very curriculum that they are learning is key to having bright minds that think outside of the box and bring new solutions. So I saw this, and it was a very heartwarming message from a UK primary school teacher that is, questioning not only what they're teaching the children, but teaching them to question themselves. And when you look at the U.S. education system and how it works today, basically it's get in line, shut up, don't think outside of the box, and stay between the lines. One of the things that just really kills me is watching children bow down to the state and basically do what they say. Automatons do what is told to them without really questioning why. And if you're a primary school teacher, I imagine you don't want to have those kind of conversations. You don't want that kind of young mind questioning what it is that you are teaching them. But philosophy is one of those things that really helps you break apart the indoctrination, the education that you are receiving. So this scares the hell out of teachers that are pushing or toting the line in a lot of ways, because the obvious question all of you parents out there know is why? Why? And no matter how much you tell your child, well, it's because daddy says so, because mommy says so, it's because it's the way it is, and you should, embrace that, and you should trust in us being an official, being your parent, your guardian, that we will always have the best interest for you at heart. And you hope that's the truth. And you hope that, no matter what you're teaching your children, that you are teaching them that they should be questioning what it is that they are learning. But anyway, a breath of fresh air, something that I think we can all really learn from, considering the vast encroachment on personal liberties and our own personal freedoms that we enjoy today. Asking our children, hey, do you value privacy? Do you value your own opinion over status quo? Do you believe that your personal interests, that common law and your personal sovereignty is over that of the state? And those are things that I can imagine probably scare people to death. So we're going to talk about that. Also, U.S. spending millions of dollars on anti-Assad reports. If you have been keeping up with the world around us, you may have seen or listened to this show and drawn some conclusions based upon what's happening in the Ukraine, in Syria, and the latest revelation that we might as well mention by the New York Times saying, yes, the United States is actually funding Al-Qaeda. I bring that up because the reality is that it doesn't take a schlub like Doug Owen or you out there listening to this program to catch on that, that a lot of the money that we're spending in fighting ISIS and fighting the insurgents in Iraq that we have used to radicalize segments to, as many of our partners have, Saudi Arabia, Israel, Jordan, even Egypt and Turkey have funded to go after groups like Hezbollah, to go after groups like Hamas and others that have run contrary to the state and contrary to the wishes for the unilateral government that is being created right now, by the way, to fight ISIS. So this is not something that's shocking, but that due to poor oversight, wink, wink, and a complete lack of, ethics or, it's not this, it doesn't even take common sense to realize what has happened in Iraq and Afghanistan, the billions of dollars that have been spent to fight and to arm friendly, moderate Syrians has ended up in the hands of ISIS, has empowered and it really armed groups like Al-Qaeda. Very confusing for the average American trying to figure out what it is that we're doing and why we're doing it in the Middle East. Most of the people out there that I talk to that are just tertiary viewers of the world around us are trying to make sense of why it is that we are at war and what exactly that means. I know that seems like a very vague and maybe open-ended question to ask somebody, but we are fighting a global war on terror. There has to be a mission. There has to be some kind of metric for success in fighting a war on terror and fighting ISIS or fighting Bashar al-Assad. So things have changed. Now, if you've been keeping up, the Saudi Arabian government has said as much as most of you have probably pretty much come to the conclusion that the reason that we are seeing the low gas prices in the U.S. is not only to fight those countries out there that are very gas prone. Venezuela, we talk about them often. They made some headlines this week, as well as putting other countries that are dependent upon oil exports like Russia in a precarious position, definitely weakening their power and their might over the construct of the New World Order. In that, I mean that the countries that are BRIC nations, Brazil, Russia, India, China, they are deeply, deeply hit by the price of fuel, and we're seeing huge stopgaps. Venezuela, we could talk about all of the horrible things that are happening there, from going after anyone who dare use any currency other than their own, to having to use your biometric access to get groceries. So there's a lot of things that are happening there. We'll talk about that and how that is affecting Russia, what's happened to Vladimir Putin, the rumors of where he is, and so much more. Don't go anywhere. More coming your way right here on Blacklisted Radio. And welcome back. We are live. It is the 15th day of March, 2015. My name is Doug Owen, and this is Blacklisted Radio. If you'd like to be part of the show, you can call in 800-313-9443. That's 1-800-313-9443. We will talk about anything entertaining your phone calls live and direct here on the show tonight. Some of the things we're talking about: philosophy, teaching our kids to question our own wishes, our own propaganda, as many may see it. You know, bringing up things like, freedom of speech, your right to privacy, the Fourth Amendment. Those things can be somewhat divisive. You know, in a world where we want to keep everybody 100% safe, and we may have to give up some of our liberties, some of our freedoms. That's what we're told often. Got a great piece, 25 statist issues or statist rebuttals to very candid questions that we may get into here. One of the things I wanted to mention today was this, because you hear this. Well, in the discourse that you have with people that are statists, it's hard to kind of ram through some of these ideas. You get the propaganda. You always have the immediate rebuttals, like the social contract. A valid contract must be presented honestly and agreed to voluntarily without duress or fraud. The social contract does not meet this standard because the state will initiate the use of force against anyone who does not voluntarily enter into the social contract. You hear this all the time. Well, we have to pay taxes to live in a civilized society, and that's just one of the things that we have to deal with. And, we have to pay taxes, and we have to have a state that uses its thumb to press on the backs of those that do not want to comply. Very statist perspective that you encounter. I have this all the time. You know, we live in a world where we have a leader, our leader, and that in and of itself is just so ridiculous that there could be one person that 320 million people in this country, in America, the United States of America, can agree upon will be the man who speaks for us. I mean, even if we had a completely non-politicized, benign, well-meaning leader of the free world, there's no way that one person can speak for you or I. It's impossible. The idea that we get taxation with representation. You got to pay taxes, you get a vote, and that's how the world works, and you just have to accept that. These are things that so many people I talk to, you talk to, I'm sure on a regular basis, you come in contact with, and you just want to shake your head and just, completely bow down to the statist, because it's almost more trouble to try to convey these ideas and these ideologies to somebody that cannot see through it. It's a very frustrating thing to deal with. And so I thought this was great. This 25 statist propaganda phrases and how to rebut them. So we'll go through that. If you have people that you have tried to reach out to that have inevitably come back and given you these little, tit for tats, maybe we can address those. Call us at 800-313-9443. So we talked about philosophy, the education system. We could probably rail on that all day long, and how little the state does to get kids to question what it is that they believe. And I would imagine most people that are teachers would probably not want to have to deal with that. So anyway, there is that. I wanted to talk about this one. I saw this today, and it just blew my mind. UK police stop and search powers on 300 toddlers. Now, this is where you see so many of these wars on people, on drugs, on guns, on just about everybody goes awry. So we'll talk about this and take your phone calls. Much more coming your way. Don't go anywhere. It is Blacklisted Radio. All right, so we're talking about the UK police setting up their stop and search powers using toddlers as as criminals apparently are doing, using them to cover up their drugs and using toddlers to, hold their guns and cash and all the things that you would imagine in a total totalitarian police state like the UK you would not have. Because of laws, you wouldn't have anybody using drugs or having firearms because of all the laws. And of course, this whole notion that more and more laws cause people to do, more law-abiding things is quite silly, and this proves it, not to mention the fact that the powers given to the UK police because of terrorists, not because of criminals, not because of petty crimes or people using illicit drugs or any of the other things that are perfectly legal if you go through the pharmaceutical industrial complex to get, but those out there that dare to alter their minds may have to face. 288 occasions the UK government has actually frisked toddlers. We're talking about children under the age of 5. Pretty shocking statistics, to say the least, to see this, how it's manifested and what the war on terror has actually turned into is sobering, to say the least. And it's one of the casualties of this war on terror, and it becomes a war on people because there's not enough terrorists out there to occupy the vast police state that has encroached upon us since September 11th, 2001. Now there are plenty of toddlers out there that have been frisked and touched by the state to make sure that you are safe and not doing anything that is out of the government's jurisdiction. I saw this today, and it was kind of staggering, I was taken aback by how the state has justified this. The Telegraph had this piece out, and I don't think a lot of people think there's a big deal with it, that they think that this is pretty normal and just what happens, there's people out there that are hiding drugs on children, and we have to go after them. And what it really, I think, should highlight is how little the war on terror has actually accomplished and how it has really manifested into a war on people. Now, I don't think it's okay to hide your gun on your toddler. And obviously in the UK, if you hide your gun on your toddler, it's not going to help you because the state doesn't see any difference between that or an innocent bystander, unarmed woman, a little old lady. Doesn't matter. They are going to put their hands on you. It's just amazing to see how things that weren't problems just 10 years ago. I mean, let's be honest. 10 years ago, people were doing drugs. People had guns. If any of these pieces of legislation were effective, you would think that there'd be less guns today than there were 10 years ago. And we didn't have an epidemic of children being touched by the state. We go into the UK government and the huge cover-up of pedophilia, and I mean right up to Margaret Thatcher's protege, who is now under quite a social indictment for his indiscretions with children. But it probably doesn't shock most of the Blacklisted Radio listeners to find out that people like Margaret Thatcher and the BBC did everything that they could to cover up masses of children being abused by the state. I mean, to an endemic level. I don't even really like covering stories like this because it hits at the root, or it strikes at the root of what is really evil in the world, and how many of these people, because of the guard that has been given to them, because of the police state, because of a cover given to them by terrorism, has been allowed, engendered to just commit the most heinous atrocities against the most vulnerable in our society. I can't think of anything that's worse as far as covering when it comes to topics or issues, and I take no pleasure in talking about those. But quite obviously, there is a huge epidemic of this, and the cover-up that has followed only shines light on those that have enabled and have helped to keep this under wraps, in secret, for decades. So if you haven't been reading the Daily Mail or the Telegraph or the Guardian and keeping up with what's happening in Euroland as far as high-positioned, high-profile, elite Fortune 500 pedophiles, do yourself a favor and just go over there and check it out. Look at the Westminster child abuse claims, and you can quickly see who the government is really after and why it's you and not them. It's just very, very revealing. Anyway, I didn't want to sidebar into that all day long, but I see these articles about the horrible things the state has to do to protect the children. And, sometimes there's bad people out there exploiting children by putting their bag of marijuana in their pockets. So we have to touch all these kids, and you can't help but notice the hypocrisy. These so-called benign or benevolent police officers aren't going after these culprits, the worst of the worst. I mean, it's like the email scandal with Hillary Clinton. I'll just touch on that for a moment. It is a complete whitewash, okay? Her own private servers, yes, she covered everything up that you could imagine. All of her dirty dealings, all of the millions of dollars that she extorted from the third world into the Clinton Global Initiative to give a protectorate status to many of these countries, pales in comparison to what her own husband has been a part of and what her own daughter has taken money for. It is just another easy, convenient way to look at the scandal, and it is a sub-scandal to scandals that are just so much more heinous. I mean, some of the headlines I could write: Hillary Clinton's global initiative takes money from cannibals. Sounds crazy. Be a great headline because it's absolutely true. Some of these South American dictators and South African dictators that have given money to the Clinton Global Initiative while Hillary was Secretary of State, while she was in a very powerful, if not one of the most powerful positions in the world, is something that should be highly scrutinized, and it is not. It is about her emails. Yes, everything from the Benghazi scandal, all the emails that she would rather you not see, 30,000 plus of them. You don't have to see them to know exactly why you would delete them. Her own brother was given a lucrative no-bid contract to mine gold and uranium in Haiti. Surprising? Not really. Nothing that you wouldn't find that Jeb Bush or any of the other political elite in the family, the family of secrets, did not engage in. And there's a great piece on Alternate talking about how Jeb Bush had basically paid, or rather people had paid him for, just basically paid to be put in these cush positions in oversight committees. It's not shocking, but just this blatant, pay to play system. Alternate, of course, being kind of left leaning, focuses on Bush, but nothing more shocking than what you would find coming out of the Clinton clan, and just another reason, I think that we can look at the 2016 election, and I've said it before, and I'll say it again. I hope that it is Hillary and Bush, and that we have a Clinton and a Bush running once again, and those are the only two options, so that people maybe, just maybe, can see that there is absolutely no difference between the two. Pay to play, pay to pollute, pay to extort. That's what a lot of these companies do. So, everybody's worried about her emails. You're not going to find out what she didn't put in her email, and everything that everything that you thought it was, it's probably 10 times worse. Then that's what I think people miss, is that it's not that her emails that you may get, that she may disclose, are that damning. It's the ones that you never get to see, that probably highlight everything that you thought it could be and worse. And that it's not a left-right issue. It's not a Republican-Democrat issue. It is that anyone that gets to that level of power in either party has to do a lot of dirt, and is selling themselves and you out there to the lowest bidder. Literally. All right, so there's that. People are really worried about Hillary's emails. I could care less. I wouldn't bother reading them. I read through the net neutrality bill, some of the things that people were so excited about. We'll see if they feel as excited about what legal content may be in what they deem legal content, and whether you are engaging in providing legal content. Hell, whether or not this show is legal content is pretty debatable under the new net neutrality laws. I'm not as hyperbolic as some who have said that this is a complete government takeover of the internet, because I already believe that that was kind of the way it was prior to net neutrality, and what that has done is empowered more and more of the copyright protection and the movie lobbies, the MPAA and the RIAA, Record Industry Association, to unilaterally go after people and domain names and their domain registrars, or anybody that is creating illegal content. They could do that before. ICE, DEA, other federal agencies have, without hesitation, without needing net neutrality or even new government rules, have been able to take down websites, take down blocks of domains here or there on their own whim, pretty much unilaterally. We saw that with some high-profile cases, namely the Facebook accounts of just about every American terrorist, from James Holmes to even the Boston bombers. You look at their timelines, their Facebook accounts, their social media, all of the digital records that they have left behind, and boom, second the government wants all of those taken down, they're gone. Didn't need net neutrality or any other oversight or new powers bestowed on government. the U.S. government, when they want things shut down, have been able to do that pretty effectively. So one of the things we'll kind of sidebar into here is what's happening in Ukraine. Joe Biden was there this weekend to talk about weapons and guns and all of the new non-lethal, wink, wink, military weaponry that is being afforded to the Chocolate King, the current president, alleged president of Kiev and some of Ukraine, Mr. Poroshenko. And one of the things the U.S. has done, besides purporting that Vladimir Putin is dead, where is the Putin? Where is he? That has been quite a story over the last few days. The rumors about him being dead, whether his girlfriend is pregnant, having their child, I have no idea. It would surprise me if he was dead, and I wouldn't be that shocked if he was, but just because, consider the sources and consider the fact that he's probably single-handedly the only person that is standing in the way of many of the agendas afoot for a quote-unquote new world order, the integration into a world system. He's one of the few people that is bucking that, but there has been a huge shift. So for you out there that know who and what the SWIFT system is, it is the international system for transference of currencies. SWIFT is when you shift money from the U.S. to Europe, you're using the SWIFT system. And the U.S. pushed on SWIFT to ostracize the Russians. And so the Russians have been working with the Chinese to create their own system, one of which we're seeing Luhansk, the People's Republic, has switched to a multi-currency system. So currency wars are well underway. I've been really focusing on this. With the string of the dollar, one of the questions people have is that a good thing? Strong dollar, what does that mean? And is this a sign of other things to come? And what does this mean for our situation with Russia? We'll follow up on that and roll into the final segment. Don't go anywhere. More coming your way. It's Blacklisted Radio.
Thank you for listening to Blacklisted Radio. This podcast is truly independent, commercial-free, and supported exclusively by listeners just like you. Please help us continue producing corporate sponsor-free media with your donation at blacklistedradio.com today.
Final segment, and we go to the phone lines here. We have Kevin in Iowa. Kevin, welcome to Blacklisted Radio.
Thank you, and good evening to you.
To you as well, sir. How are you doing?
Well, I'm suffering through this global climate warming trend today, and I don't know what to do with it. It was 65 degrees, and it was sunny out, and I just wanted to crawl into my ice box and get cold again, I guess.
It happens, yeah.
Just kidding. Anyway, you were talking about Hillary, and other than she's about as evil as the day is long, her server is connected to the internet, I presume, and the NSA is all over the internet. So why wouldn't the NSA have every one of her emails that she's ever done? Point two is that, okay, you said she was head of the most powerful position, and for our government to allow her to be off-channel or off-record, I'm certainly considering that that's maybe a violation.
Yeah. Yeah. And think about this from a security standpoint. If you're not on some kind of secured NIPRNet, SIPRNet, one of these different protocols that the U.S. government is using that is supposed to be super safe, then you risk having that information be, possibly in the hands of others like Russia or China. Yeah, we hear that all the time, that they are hacking into all of these servers. So it brings up a lot of questions about whether or not she would have been able to secure that information. And it just seems very irresponsible for somebody making such high-powered decisions. I mean, we saw Victoria Nuland, remember her little gaffe with the F the EU thing that made its way to YouTube. The Russians apparently were able to hack into her cell phone where she was talking with the ambassador to Ukraine about the junta, the coup d'etat that they were planning. So, yeah, I mean, it smacks of, I would say, something very illegal and unconscionable, but it's about par for the course for Hillary.
Yeah, thanks for reminding me of that. I totally forgot that the news agencies were able to go down into a cell phone and anytime they wanted, just about on whoever they wanted. I'd forgotten about that.
Yeah. So, she's got a lot of explaining to do, but the U.S. media is not going to hold her feet to the fire. I've been watching PBS NewsHour and the rest, and they've made this really about her ability to have private email. And I mean, it brings up a great question. I mean, it's just Hillary Clinton, but how many other private conversations has Barack Obama had, and on his BlackBerry or other unsecured communications, as much as they want to secure the communications of the American people, not very good at doing it for themselves.
One of the big ironies here is that the NSA had put back doors into everything, and of course they didn't do it magically, so everybody that hacks, they can go in and follow the same path, and they have the Stuxnet thing that took place.
Yeah, it brings up a lot of great questions. Hey, Kevin, thanks for the phone call. We're up against it, guys. Thank you so much for being part of the show tonight. I'm out of time. I'll be back next Sunday for another live edition of Blacklisted Radio. Until then, everybody have a great week and take care.
It was fun. Talk to you next week, Doug.
All right, brother. Bye.